very warm welcome to the student of B.Sc BBA BCA BScIT BSc Home Science. So, this is your open elective paper. Those who are interested, you can opt this paper. This paper offered by the Department of Political Science. The title of this paper is Indian Constitution and Human Rights. This is prescribed for your first semester. This is open elective and it carries only the 2 credits, that is for 50 marks paper. It has 2 blocks and 8 units. First one block consists of 4 units. I will take this one. The next block will take by somebody, professor. First I want to introduce myself. I am Dr. Jhannavi, faculty of the Department of Political Science. Today I am taking how Indian Constitution has been made and what is the importance of Indian Constitution and what is the meaning of Indian Constitution. First, before we get into the Indian Constitution, what does it mean, Constitution? The Constitution is the fundamental law in administration of a country. In order to administer any country, it needs the fundamental law, that is called Constitution. Every state has its own constitution. Suppose the state which has no constitution means it is a regime of monarchy. The basis of any government is its constitution. Generally, sovereign state have either written constitution or unwritten constitution. The constitution defining the powers of the government and rights and duties of the governed, and what are the rights and duties which is administered by the state. The constitution is the essential to the proper working of every state. In order to work any state properly, it requires the fundamental law of the land, that is called constitution. It has been rightly pointed out by the Professor Jelinek that a state without a constitution would not be a state, but it is a regime of monarchy. So, in any democratic states, the constitution serves as an instrument for safeguarding the fundamental liberties of an individual, and it also safeguards the people against the tyranny rules. That means rules which are interference with the liberty of any individual. For that, the constitution is a delimitation. The term constitution means the structure and organization of a state. In simple terms, the constitution is a collection of legal rules providing a framework for the governance of any country. It reflects the dominant belief and interest which are characteristic of a society at the time of it was framed and adapted. That means the constitution means at what time it has been adapted, what is the characteristics or what was the characteristics of that state and what are the beliefs of that state. Everything has to be reflected in the constitution. In simple terms, the constitution of a state may be defined as a body of rules and regulation, either it may be a written or unwritten, which determine the organization and functions of the government. That means either it may be a written rules or it may be a unwritten rules that all determine the what are the organization of a state and what are the functions of those organizations. According to the Aristotle, the constitution is an arrangement of power in a state, especially of the supreme power. Jelinek defines the constitution as a body of juridical rules which determine the supreme organ of the state, which prescribe their mode of creation, their manual relationship, their sphere of action, finally the fundamental place for each of them in their relation to the state. One retake okay. According to Aristotle, the constitution is the arrangement of power in a state, especially of the supreme power, how supreme power has been arranged in any of the state. According to the Professor, Jelling defines the constitution as a body of juridical rules which determine the supreme organs of the state and also which prescribe their mode of creation, their mutual relationship, their sphere of action, and finally the fundamental place for each of them in their relation with the state. According to K.C. Ware, in the wider sense, the term constitution is used to denote the whole body of rules and regulations, customs, conventions and judicial decisions which determine the form and character of governmental system, the rights and duties of the government in relation to the citizens as well as rights and duties of those citizens in relation to the government. That means according to the K.C. Ware, it is a both side. What are the rights and duties of the citizens with regard to states and as well as what are the rights and duties of the state with regard to the individuals or people. And also it includes all rules, regulations, custom, conventions and judicial decisions and which determine the nature of the government. That means what kind of a government we have. We have to know that what is the importance of the constitution. Constitution is very essential to the proper and orderly working of any state or every state. So in order to say the state has to be work in orderly manner or in a proper manner, it mandatorily requires the constitution. Modern states are governed by the constitutional government. The constitutional government means it is a limited government. Limited government means it draws a line or limit on the power of the government and it outlining the framework within which government has to work. That means in a modern sense, in a modern democratic state, every state has its own constitution. The constitution means it put the limitations on the government. It should not unnecessarily interfere with the liberties of the individuals and as well as the state has to work within the framework or within the constitutional framework of the constitution. That means the constitution establishes a system of check and balances, the system of rule of law and it also establishes the orderly government as opposed to the rule by men and no whims and fancies. That means in a state having a constitution means everything has to be done, everything has to be do according to the constitution. No chance for whims and fancies of any bureaucrats. Otherwise, if there is no constitution means bureaucrats will take the decision according to their whims and fancies. That's why we are saying that if the state has a constitution means it is establishes the orderly government which is opposite to the rule of men. In this juncture, it is imperative to know how the Indian constitution has been evolved because it will throw lights on the growth and understanding of the Indian constitution. So, the task of framing of our Indian constitution has been made by our Constituent Assembly, which was the group of eminent personalities who were also the freedom fighters. So, our constitution has been made by the Constituent Assembly. It is a group of eminent people. They were the freedom fighters. After achieving a political freedom from the Britishers, the framers of our constitution were confronted with the main problems of achieving two more goals, namely social and economic justice. It was the task, main task before our constitution framework, because in those situations when we got independence, there was much economic disparity, there was much social disparity. So in that circumstances, it is a goal for them to achieve the social justice and as well as economic justice. So this was also reflected in the emotional speech of Jawaharlal Nehru. The first task of this assembly is to free India through a new constitution, to feed to starving people and to clothe the naked masses and to give every Indian the fullest opportunity to develop himself according to his capacity. It was one of the speech, one of the statement made by the Jawaharlal Nehru in his speech. So what was the task of our constitution? So first it is a task before that August assembly, that means constituent assembly, to feed the starving people and as well as to provide clothes to the naked masses and also give an opportunity to every Indian to develop himself or herself according to their fullest capacity. The term constitution is derived from the word constitute, which means to form or to establish or to compose. Therefore, the constitution is the act of establishing the basic form or structure of government. The main idea of a constitution, the main ideology of the constitution is to establish the basic form or structure of government. What was the nature and what was the structure of government? So today we are having a parliamentary form of or structure of government. Everything has been explained in the constitution. Here the question arises, how Indian constitution has been made? Is it out of political revolution? No. The constitution of the Indian Republic is the product of a research deliberation of body of eminent people. That means, so our constitution made by eminent people. They have made a elaborate deliberations in the constitution assembly. The constitution set out the rights of everyone which must be respected by the state. For example, we saying part 3rd of Indian constitution, it is guaranteed against the state. Like that, the constitution set out the rights of everyone. What are the rights minorities have? What are the rights their weaker sections of the society has? This kind of every kinds of a right has been prescribed in the constitution that has to be respected by the state. And also it establishes the relationship between the government and the people. That's why the constitution is very important, because how to what are the duties and rights of state towards citizens, as well as what are the duties and rights of citizens towards the state. That means it is establishes the relationship between the state and the people or citizens. That's why the constitution is very important. Finally, the constitution is the guarantees of peaceful change through legal and legitimate modes. That means any constitution, take for example, are not static. That means it has to be changed according to the needs of the society, changes which made in the society. That's why our constitution is also was not static in nature. We have, from by way of amendment, we have to amend our constitution according to the requirements of our society. So here the question arises, what are the sources of Indian constitutions? Where will we influence it? For all these provisions, because our constitution having at the time of making of an Indian constitution, the constitution having 395 articles. So for all 395 articles, where we influenced, what is the source for them? The framers of our Indian constitution were greatly influenced by the constitutional system and practices that was prevailing in England. That is parliamentary system of government, rule of law, privileges of members of the parliament, etc. were all taken from the British political system. Then we have also influenced by the American constitution. It was mainly visible in the provisions relating to preamble, fundamental rights and role of the judiciary. And we are taking directive principles of the state policy from the Constitution of Republic Ireland. So that means we are influenced by the Republic Constitution. So these provisions we are taken from the Ireland constitutions. So with some modification, we have according to their our needs, our requirements, we have introduced under the Indian constitution. Then federal system in the Indian constitution. So no doubt we are influenced by the Canadian pattern of system. Then emergency provisions we are taken from the Germany constitution. Then elections for the members of Rajya Sabha and amendment of Indian constitution, regarding that we are greatly influenced by the constitution of South Africa. In addition to all this, the greatest influence and the framers of Indian constitution with regard to new constitution of India was the Government of India Act 1935. So you know that Government of India Act 1935, it is a very voluminous enactment and we have most of the provisions we have adapted from the Government of India Act 1935 to Indian constitutions. This is the source for Indian constitutions. So even though we are not accepted, we are taking sources from various constitution. We says that we are influenced by those constitutions. According to their our needs and requirement, we have to adapt our own provisions according to their our needs. So that's why we are says that our constitution is the supreme law of the land. So and it is the fundamental to the administration of our country. So you know that we are having a parliamentary system of a government. It is entirely different from the presidential system of the government. These concepts, everything is expanded in the constitution itself. So in the next class, I will take the what are the salient features of Indian constitution, because Indian constitution has its own salient features. That's why it is we called it is a very famous constitution. In with regard to length, means bulkiness, our constitution is world famous. So it has its own basic features of basic features I will take in the next class.